It's time to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your hosts, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hello, friends. Lee Sanders with you guys for this nice, beautiful Saturday night, May 10th, 2025. You like that dramatic pause? Probably not, because you guys are probably like, what's going on here? We are live. We are minutes removed from WWE Backlash. Went down at the Enterprise Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. You all sound off. Let your man and everybody else know what you thought about tonight's pay-per-view event, or I'm sorry, PLE. I'm never going to get used to saying PLE, especially on a consistent basis. Sound off. We got a poll up on youtube.com/the RCWR show. Also got one available on Twitter at the RCWR show as well. We'll see how you guys are voting a little bit later on in the show. Yo, kudos to WWE. And before anybody says this, I want to beat those to the punch, because I'm getting ready to say kudos to WWE for pretty much wrapping up this event right at about the 45-minute mark. I know it's a very, very busy week for TKO, essentially, because they've got a UFC event that the coverage and all that starts at 10 p.m. Eastern and everything. So I know they were trying to make sure everything synced up perfectly so fans could easily jump from the WWE event and go right into the UFC event and everything. And then, not to also mention, you still got, look, maybe some of y'all ain't jumping to the UFC. Maybe some of y'all care about your hockey. You're trying to see what's going on with that. We also still got the NBA playoffs. There is a lot of stuff that's going on this Saturday night. Speaking of which, major shout out to those of you that's going to be joining me. I see a lot of you guys that's trickling in. I'm seeing how it's looking on all the other social media outlets. Hey, appreciate you guys that's tuning in live, spending part of your Saturday with me. I hope your weekend is off to a very, very solid start. And of course, as always, love hearing from you guys, getting your thoughts about the pay-per-view PLE event. So definitely sound off. This is your WWE Backlash post show. Let's jump right into this bad boy. First up on look, you know, just kind of talking in no particular order. Look, John Cena, Randy Orton. I just want to say, because that's very fresh on my mind right now, the match went down exactly how I thought it was going to go down, minus everybody that made a cameo appearance in there, from the Nick Aldis to Sean Daivari, Jamie Noble, a couple of security details there. I wasn't expecting for all of that to go down, especially with the RKO galore. I thought after, honestly, the RKO to Nick Aldis, everything was just going to be, okay, that's it. But then to just spam the RKO out like candy, I know some of you guys, you love that move, and but for me, I just felt it was getting a little bit too spammed out. I kind of lost interest a little bit. I thought it was too excessive. I thought all of that wasn't needed with the spamming of the RKO, but everything went down how I thought it was going to play out with that match. Overall, the near pinfalls, seeing Randy Orton. Okay, look, if the only way I can take out John Cena is to essentially punt this guy in the head, take him out how I used to do it back in the day as the legend killer, well, then so be it. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the damn thing. Coming so close, but no cigar. The R-Truth element being thrown in there as well. I know some people probably are not going to like that. Me personally, I love it. If you've been a long time listener of this show, you know that one of my favorite periods regarding Cena and R-Truth goes back to right here in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., when we had the Capital Punishment pay-per-view event. And in the main event match, it was a heel R-Truth. This was him at his absolute best, I felt, when he had the whole spiders and he was hearing all kinds of weird crap in his head and everything. Going up against John Cena for the WWE Championship, I thought that if there was ever a time and a place, stars aligned, R-Truth possibly pulling an upset here, getting the W with the championship. I thought Capital Punishment, that was the place, that was the time. Everything just felt right. Didn't pan out that way. And I've always brought it up here on the show. What if it would have gone in the direction of R-Truth? What might have been? It's just, you guys have no idea how much it warms my heart to see R-Truth be involved in this final run that Cena is having. And if you are a huge R-Truth fan, you're literally going, man, like it's just a matter of time before Truth and Cena, they lock it up again. And what could possibly come from out of this, right? I mean, that's literally what you're saying to yourself. Now we got to keep in mind something that Cena has reminded us of a couple of times, and I think we're going to get to a point where Cena's just going to stop reminding us. But remember, he said he had 32 dates left, and that didn't mean matches. That just meant 32 more appearances, and then he's done. So you can't help but wonder how that final list of opponents is looking once he gets ready to wrap things up. I'll definitely share with you my dream list of what I think is going to make Cena's final opponents on this farewell tour. And then we'll also have a list of most likely this is where we're going to be heading with regards to the WWE mindset, what WWE is most likely going to do. So that should be a fun joint. We'll be doing that on Monday's show. But Randy Orton versus John Cena, I felt it complemented very well overall what we've seen these two guys do over the past 25 years. Yeah, they may have slowed down just a little bit, respectively. They may have slowed down just a tiny little bit, but the chemistry, undeniable, still there. I loved watching these two. It just felt so surreal watching these two guys in the main event. Wow, I had to constantly pinch myself going, it's 2025, right? Because I felt like I was going back in time here. I had to constantly remind myself this is present day right now, what you're seeing play out before your eyes and all that. And just see these two guys can still go, although a little bit slower, but they can still go. I loved it. It was a good match. Very, very, very good match. I'll say a lot more about that main event match later on. All right, Backlash opening up with Jacob Fatu successfully retaining his United States Championship in a four-way match, a fatal four-way against LA Knight. Yeah! Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre via pinfall, 17 minutes. 55 seconds. I thought Jacob Fatu had a fantastic showing out party here. Yet at the same time, that wasn't the main story, as we heard the rumors off and on for the past couple of weeks, but it finally materialized here tonight. One Jeff Cobb, mainly know him pretty much from New Japan and everything. He showed up making his debut here tonight. And leave it to you, social media slew detectives making it very noteworthy news that let's not forget Jeff Cobb, long time ago, came through the WWE Performance Center. Man, to see how he looked way back then and then compared to how he's looking now and everything. Now, I'm going to have the most unpopular opinion in regards to Jeff Cobb showing up here. I'm not really a fan of how they just presented him. I appreciated hearing a handful of fans saying, holy, okay, so they knew who Jeff Cobb was, obviously, but it wasn't a unanimous kind of reaction that you would expect. If you know all things wrestling, you know what's going on the independent free agency scene and all that. It wasn't the kind of reaction it's funny because at first I remember leading up to Jeff Cobb getting his hands there on who was that? I'm trying to think. Who did he get his hands on? I'm trying to think who it was. I can't recall if it was LA Knight. I think it was LA Knight. I think it was LA Knight that got grabbed upon. I remember going, who is this random long-haired dude? And at first I was thinking maybe it was Rhino, possibly. And if not Rhino, I was thinking maybe it was a random fan. And then when they finally did the close-in shot of the face, I'm going, I still don't quite like. Let's move some of that hair out of the face. We need to see a clear shot of this guy's face. And then when I finally was able to see who it was, I'm going, hey, cool, Jeff Cobb. But I know for the average WWE fan, and unfortunately, this is the case, your typical WWE fan isn't gonna know who Jeff Cobb is, right? They're gonna go, who? So, and they have every right to think that way and everything. But those that know their wrestlers, they know their wrestling. You know about the history there between Jeff Cobb and Jacob Fatu. So it plays very well into how Jacob Fatu pretty much was introduced. I thought the placement of Jeff Cobb, him being associated with Solo Sokoa, I don't know why my dogs are barking, but anyway, his association there with Solo Sokoa, uh, it makes a lot of sense because we've seen for the past couple of weeks now, kind of feels as though Solo and Jacob Fatu kind of have a little bit of a rift, if you want to call it that, that's going on. It seems like on the one hand, Solo is respecting the fact that Jacob, okay, it's his time to shine. He's earned it. It's all about him now. This is his show, but you almost kind of feel and see that legit resentment that's just steaming off of the shoulders there of Sokoa. And so you can look at what's going on here with Sokoa's association here. What the hell? Hang on. You got me what the hell that was about. It's live, pal. Anything can happen. Seriously, I don't know what the hell that was about. No, that's not music I listen to on a regular basis. But when I am feeling like a little bit of techno and all that going on, I do happen to dip into quite a little bit. But anyway, yeah, that association there with Sokoa and Jeff Cobb there, understanding everything that we've been seeing these past several weeks on SmackDown and all that, I like the seeds that have been planted. I thought besides the match itself, Jacob Fatu also did a phenomenal job in really selling Jeff Cobb's arrival in WWE and his association with Sokoa. Uh, Looking on so perplexed, going, what the hell? Like, what is this about? You could obviously tell if you're thinking as far as further story advancement, Fatu had no idea that Solo was going to reach out to Jeff Cobb, let alone Jeff Cobb was going to arrive in WWE totally blindsided by this. Okay. And then you also can't help but wonder with regards to Fatu, you also can't help but wonder, yeah, a win is a win, but was Fatu down with Solo in his own way, helping Fatu retain that United States championship? we'll have to see how everything plays out on SmackDown this coming week. But a lot of interesting dynamics that was going on there. Let's talk about the final moments of this matchup, by the way, for the United States Championship. Towards the end, Fatu's head was sent into the announce table. Knight ended up putting Fatu on the announce table, head up to the top from there. Knight tries setting up a diving elbow drop through the announcer's table, but Sikoa arrives at ringside, pulls Fatu off the table. So saved his ass not once, but there was a second time that was getting ready to pop up, which we're going to talk about in a hot second there. Knight, pretty pissed off, realizing what's going on. He's like, I know you didn't just do that. I know you didn't just do that. Chases after Sikoa, and then that's when, wham, out of nowhere, Jeff Cobb appears, lays out LA Knight and everything. Fatu rolls Knight back into the ring, hits the moonsault, gets the 3 count. And look, as far as who is going to eat the pinfall, you just kind of felt at this point that no, with everything that's going on with Damian Priest, him needing to be built back up again, especially with Money in the Bank going down next month, you just felt Priest ain't going to eat it. You're looking at Drew McIntyre, and if you're again thinking about Money in the Bank, you're going, no way he's going to eat that. Fatu. Now it's interesting because you could have also looked at this match and said to yourself, wonder if Solo may cost Fatu the championship. But if you thought about it more and more and have been really paying attention to SmackDown these past several weeks, you could see that underlying tension, that jealousy that's there between, well, not between, but that is there with Sikoa. You just felt that, what better way to extract sweet revenge than take that United States Championship off of Fatu. That just seems like the better, and it'd be very easy for Solo to say, hey, you had your own dreams, your own ambitions. I was expecting your loyalty to be solely, to me. I brought you here. Never forget that I brought you here. I got you into all this. Everything that's happening right now, success-wise for your career, you owe it all to me. And you just ain't been coming humbled enough for your tribal chief, right? I mean, you can see that a mile away, can't you? If you're thinking of another direction, you can definitely sound off. Let me know and everything. But everybody here for this opener, I thought did a pretty solid job. Again, really good opener. Really great showing there by Fatu. I really was quite taken back by the reaction that he got from the crowd. I mean, we know he's been picking up some momentum these past several weeks and everything. But it's just really, really like this guy is totally undeniable. And I love that. I love that my man is totally undeniable. From there, we go to our next match. And depending how you feel about this one, well, I don't know. Really depends. Whether you like them both, you like one of them, or maybe you just don't care for either of them. Lyra Valkyria retaining her women's Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch, 18 minutes, 45 seconds. It's so funny. I was watching this match with my wife, and one of my biggest gripes, y'all that's been checking out my shows, each week, you know how I feel about Lyra. I think she's solid in the ring, uh, but the presence, the aura, the connection with the crowd, all of that is very lackluster, right down to the point. You look at the current crop of 17, 18 plus wrestlers that was released recently, you can make a very good argument. I can keep these girls in place of Lyra for real. And it's so interesting because say what you will about Becky Lynch, feel what you want to feel about Becky Lynch. And, if you want to make the whole argument, well, tonight, this match that she had against Lyra, all piped in crowd noises, or, no, you had this, like, whatever little caveat you want to put to it, like, go ahead, have it. But the one thing that cannot be denied in regards to Becky Lynch, Becky Lynch made this match with Lyra. Becky Lynch knew she had the crowd in the palm of her hands, and every single opportunity that Becky had to just these little nuances where a little bit of a breadcrumb that she gives to the crowd, they gobble that bad boy up. They're reacting to it the way that they're supposed to be reacting to it. And, you know, Becky Lynch, as far as MVP of the night goes for this pay-per-view, I got to give it to Becky Lynch because she really helped get this match over. Now, that's not me crapping on Lyra's in-ring ability, but if you've known me for all the years that I've been doing this show, one of the things that I am very quick to point out is, look, you can't just go in there, do the moves, and expect to go over. It's like not in 2025 and beyond. You know, these days you got to have some type of a personality that connects very well with the crowd. And, you know, the crowd, for the most part, when it comes to Lyra, they're very timid. They're a little bit, you could tell the crowd is still within that honeymoon period and everything, you know, right down to the point. And I didn't forget this. I'm just circling back is all. And I was watching everything come about with this match. And I was telling my girl, I said, you know, Lyra's got this bird gimmick thing that's going on. Yeah, you got the crowd that's going, woo, whoa. It's like, but beyond that, like, what else do you really have here? How else can you really connect with the crowd? And it's like, that's great that she's doing these moves. She knows how to do them and all of that, but you know, work the crowd into it. And you know, I was being very reminiscent of Coco Beware. You know, for a guy that was all about the bird and all that other stuff. And I just couldn't help but go, man, you know, because you just imagine if she sat down, looked at some tapes. You know she hasn't, but could you just imagine sitting Lyra Valkyria down? Okay, you got this weird bird gimmick, spiritual bird thing that's going on. Okay, look at what Coco Beware used to do. Look at Raven. Look at Moore's Day in the Time. And you know, come on now, flock! Hallelujah, you know. And it's like, figure out ways to incorporate some of that stuff as you make your way into the ring. Figure out some type of a way to get the crowd, you know, that way. It's really weird, you know. It's not a love hate thing that I got for Lyra. It's just, okay, I if you're gonna stick with this bird thing, let's really make it count for what it's worth. That's like my whole thing. Like, let's really get people invested and get them really reacting. Becky really sold the hell out of this match, honestly. And it's funny because when I initially was looking at this match, of all the matches for this card, this was the one match I looked at and I said, this is probably going to be the weakest match of the entire night. Like, hands down, it's got to be. And, you know, it's funny because when I look at this match in retrospect, because remember, we had a total of 5 matches. So when I look at all of these matches in retrospect, I would still say, to a certain degree, as far as weakest match of the night, I'm reluctantly giving the nod to this match, but at the same time, it exceeded my expectations. Now, some of you guys may be very confused by that and going, Lee, that sounds like double talk out of your mouth. 2 things can be said that's true. Feel me on that. That again, I wish I was pulling you guys' leg, but that's like legit. Take Becky out of the equation, and I definitely feel if you would have put in any other opponent. So, for example, if you would have put in there Julia, or if you would have put in there Roxanne Perez, I don't think this match would have been as exciting, as good as we ended up getting between Lyra and Becky Lynch. And again, a large part of that is because of what Becky did here tonight. And in her own way, Becky essentially picking up right where she left off when she was last working with Lyra Valkyria. If you really stop and think about it, tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying, because right before Becky rolled out, we all collectively as fans were going, okay, Becky's been working with Lyra. Okay, this is promising. This is good. And then remember, once Becky disappeared for a good minute and Lyra was just chilling, right? We're going, oof, how much longer is this girl gonna last? Like, and I don't know how the hell she made it as long as she did, because if she would have been on the chopping block, that kind of would have been like, yeah, well, expect it. Final moments of this matchup here. Lynch hits a second manhandle slam. Valkyria manages to kick out, though. Lynch repeatedly slamming Valkyria's face into the mat. Valkyria ends up hitting the Nightwing, but the referee is late making the count. Jessica Carr was the referee for this one. And earlier in the match, Becky Lynch had exposed the top turnbuckle pad in the corner. And Jessica Carr, when she was sliding into the ring, she saw what was going on. Actually, right before that, Becky called herself trying to slam Lyra's face first into that exposed turnbuckle. Jessica sees what's going on, saying, no, I can't let that happen. I cannot let that happen. Nope. And so Jessica is now trying to figure out real quick where the padding is. She goes to retrieve it. This gives Becky enough of an opportunity to try to do some other cheap tactic. And by the time she pulled that off, Jessica Carr, realizing what's going on, tries to go in for the count. It's a near fall. Match pretty much had continued. Lyra Valkyria, and Becky Lynch from there. Boy, those names are tongue twisters, isn't it? Oof. Exchanging roll-ups and all of that good stuff. Valkyria is the one who finally ends up getting the 3 count, though, after that series of exchanges of roll-ups. And then immediately afterwards, Becky Lynch just goes pounding on the face of Lyra. Officials had to, break these girls up and everything. So obviously, the feud between these two, not over just yet, not over by a long shot. This feud is continuing on. Not sure how I feel about the fruit roll-up pen. I'm not really sure how I feel about that one. On the one hand, you can have Becky Lynch come on out there the very next night, talk about how Lyra was just extremely lucky, and that if maybe it was a no DQ match, like Lyra just it wouldn't go down like that, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if potentially going into Money in the Bank, or if maybe this plays out on Monday Night Raw, we see these girls lock up again. But I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. I feel that when that match for the championship does happen, I feel as though Bayley will make her return. And as a result, 2 things is going to happen. Lyra will retain the championship, but then from there, Lyra will move on to her next opponent. Meanwhile, Bayley, Becky, they pretty much will go and do their own thing. So we'll see how everything plays out. And look, who knows? We got a couple of weeks to go until Saturday night's main event. For all we know, Lyra and Becky just may fight at Saturday night's main event, and maybe Bayley returns on that show. If it was me, I'm telling WWE, go in that direction. Why don't you? You got to figure out, you're going to be live, and then not to mention, you got to put some matches on anyway. You could definitely go in that respective direction. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that one. But a solid match. By the way, my grading so far for these first 2 matches, that fatal 4-way for the United States Championship, I'm going to give that one a B plus. I can't go higher. I can't go any lower. Lyra, Becky Lynch. I'm looking at I'll give it a C plus. I'm willing to give it a C plus. I can't go any higher. I won't go any lower, but a respected C plus. Next matchup, Dominik Mysterio retaining the Intercontinental Championship against Penta. 9 minutes, 20 seconds. Good stuff here between both of these guys. Very good stuff here. Penta is so over, man. It just amazes me how week after week, Penta, just the aura, everything about this guy is just continuing to grow more and more by the week. I'm loving it. Great ovation for Dominik Mysterio, by the way. That thing was just, I mean, you're thinking about what happened when he won the championship at WrestleMania, and just how the momentum has just continued and how the support for Dom has just continued from there. But it definitely was on full display here tonight for Dom and everything. Pretty fun, competitive matchup. I wish it could have gone just a little bit longer because I felt a little bit shortchanged there when it was all said and done. Definitely enjoyed how Judgment Day members Finn Balor, Carlito, JD tried coming out. Finn Balor was trying to quarterback some stuff as far as a cheap attack happening on Penta. But then Finn decides while the referee was distracted and all that. No, hey, little buddy, how you doing? While there was that little distraction there for the referee, Balor decides rather than slug out Penta, I'll hold that thought. Let me go get a steel chair and then we'll really do some damage. Well, because of that hesitation and going back to get the chair, referee is able to see clear as day Balor with the chair, everything that's about to go down, ejects all of those Judgment Day members. But later on, I'm trying to think who it was that came back. I believe it was Balor that ended up coming back, climbing up on the ropes, trying to yell at the referee and all of that good stuff. And while all of that was happening, Penta was in a position where he was getting ready to climb up to the top as Dominik was laid out. El Grande Americano comes from just out of nowhere, pushes Penta off. Dominik Mysterio was pretty much able to hit the frog splash, retain his championship that way. Remember the arrangements that's been happening these past couple of weeks between Chad Gable there and Judgment Day. Also thinking about Chad Gable's obsession with taking out luchadors and all that. So kind of nice how we had this built in. And by the way, Michael Cole and them, they mentioned this during the PLE tonight. So apparently Chad Gable is the new speed champion. I've yet to watch a episode of Speed. So one of these days, I know that's like a social media exclusive. One of these days, I got to sit down and see what's been happening with that show and all of that. Those of you that watch Speed, if you want to get me and everybody else kind of I hate to say caught up to speed because I, no pun intended, but if you want to let us know what we can expect, definitely, feel free to sound off and everything. Let us know how many matches we can expect, how long this usually runs. Like, that'd be kind of good. What to watch for? Is it just straight up matches? Like, kind of gets the dialogue talking and all that. So I'm not gonna look online. Instead, I'll leave that for you guys to get me caught up to speed. Chat me up and chat up the rest of the community. Let us know what's going on with Speed there. So don't forget, coming up on this Monday Night Raw, we got the War Raiders taking on American Made. I can't help but wonder how much of a factor will the Judgment Day be in regards to that, right? Because of this little alliance, if you will, that we got going on with Judgment Day, kind of Chad Gable, right? Kind of can't help but wonder how that all's going to map out. So to be continued. Now, if I'm looking at everything and I'm going, if there's one match I could have done without for this pay-per-view, as much as I enjoyed Dom and Penta, I probably would have left this one off, despite how I may feel about Lyra and Becky. Because honestly, I'm looking at this Penta and Dominik. It's a good match, but extremely short. I'm thinking, hmm, mm, modesty, modesty. It was good. Just, I was expecting a lot more time. But the little bit that I got, like I wish I could go higher. But if you're keeping track at home, wait a minute. Lee's got Lyra and Becky Lynch slightly better than Dominik and Penta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Feel free to debate me on that one. Next up, coming in at 14 minutes, Gunther defeating Pat McAfee via technical submission. I gotta tell you, that Pat McAfee continues to amaze me each and every single time this guy gets in the ring. Sincerely, I mean, this guy, like, what can't this guy do? Like seriously, I just, I'm speechless. This was as far as, whoa, wasn't expecting that. This was the match of the night for that respected category because I thought, and I'm sure a lot of you all had the same impression. Oh, this is going to be just a epic, brutal freaking beatdown. Gunther is just gonna, from the moment the bell rings, Gunther is just gonna be having his way. You know, BK, have it your way. You rule. Man, I thought for sure Gunther was just going to be dominating, dominating. And the match didn't even play out like that. I love the fact that the way this was booked. And of course, it's half in part because Pat McAfee was willing to go in there, put in the actual work and everything, to see this guy doing arm drags and countering arm holds and doing kick-ups in the process of those holds. My mind was just blown away that, wow, like I didn't know this guy was capable of, like, what the hell. um this was good. I know some people are going to look at this and be like, what a joke. And no, this went down exactly how I would expect for an individual that has not been training all his life to be a pro wrestler. For somebody that is just an outsider, looking in, that just has a lot of love and admiration, respect for the business. This match played that once I got a really good sense of the story they were trying to tell here, and I'm like, oh, I'm down for this story. Like, okay, cool. This was quite a pleasant surprise from what I initially thought as far as how this match was going to be laid out. I'm sure it probably took a lot of people out as well, especially with regards to the finish of the match. A lot of us kind of had the same impression, and I made my rounds checking out what some of my fellow colleagues had to say on social media and everything, checking out some of their shows. And, some of my friends and colleagues were of the mindset, nah, Gunther is going to beat Pat down so brutally that the referee may have to step in and somehow he's got to get control. Gunther is just that hot-headed. Match gets thrown out. Like, Gunther loses via DQ, but the damage is done to Pat McAfee, and we're probably not going to see him again for a little bit. I kind of understood that mindset that some people had. Oh, well, football is right around the corner. And it's like, what? Well, wait a minute, pump the brakes, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. Because I know my football, like in about 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to get, or less, we're going to get the full 2025-26 NFL schedule. So we're going to see all the games that everybody's going to be playing for that season. That's not enough for Pat McAfee to, okay, it's time for me to disappear. And then as far as camp goes for a lot of the NFL teams, it's May right now. I don't think training camp is gonna start not until maybe, I'd be shocked if it was late May, but typically I hear stuff about training camp usually late June going into early July is when I start to hear about training camp. And then as far as NFL preseason goes, I know a lot of people don't care about preseason, but I know for the broadcasting industry, because they're salivating at the bits. They love getting the jump start on the NFL coverage and all of that. Usually, your NFL preseason that starts in August before the regular season kicks off in September. So, my whole point of mentioning all of this, because there is a point, a lot of people thought maybe Pat McAfee was about to disappear for a little bit. No, no, and especially with the way the match ended, yeah, safe to say we're going to be seeing Pat McAfee on this coming Monday Night Raw, right beside Gunther, and everything. Final moments of this matchup: Michael Cole. I know at one point he got in there. He wasn't liking what he was seeing of his friend Pat being choked out a little bit there by Gunther, and he was rattling him on. Pat manages to, get out of the hold. Match continued. Gunther looking on, pretty pissed off at Michael Cole. I remember at one point, Gunther even managed to get his hands on Michael Cole, dragging him into the ring and everything. And if there was ever a time where I was expecting for Wade Barrett to throw his headset down and get into the face of Gunther, like right there when Cole was being grabbed, well, I was expecting for Wade Barrett to do a little something, something. And the fact that Barrett didn't, I was a little, I don't know about you guys, but I was definitely a little bit disappointed in that one and everything. Later on in the matchup, Pat McAfee managed to get Gunther in a pinning predicament. And while that was happening, Michael Cole called himself grabbing on one of the heels of Gunther, trying to get the 3 count that way for his boy Pat. Gunther manages to kick out. Hilarious stuff right there. That's when Gunther ended up dragging Michael Cole in the ring and everything. Pat manages to save his ass. And then from there, Gunther slapped on actually, no, if I remember it right, Pat McAfee manages to get a chokehold very similar to what Jey Uso had applied to Gunther at WrestleMania. You're looking at this, you're going, oh, how soon before Gunther kicks out? But then Gunther manages to get out of it and put his own rear naked chokehold, apply that. And eventually he was able to make Pat McAfee pass out, to the point that he was not able to respond to the referee when the referee was checking on him and everything. So technical submission knockout, if you want to call it that, basically a sleeper hold. Gunther picking up the W that way. Post match, Gunther tipping his hat to McAfee. A little bit of respect there. But you can't help but wonder, Pat McAfee, does he now have respect for Gunther now that he has been in the ring with the guy? And I really love the way this match was laid out, especially for, like you knew what Gunther was going to be capable of going in here. The real story of this match, I felt, was how much will Gunther rise to the occasion here against Gunther? Is he going to do some stuff that, is going to take us by surprise? Or, is it going to be kind of one of those, yeah, you know what, this guy really had no business being in this match? And on the contrary, this was well put together. I'm looking at this from a booking standpoint, from a production standpoint. You could not have done this any better. Um, now at the same time, I never got the impression, like, and this goes back to the point of how this match was laid out. I never got the impression that Gunther was in a serious threatening position against Pat McAfee, which is why when you throw in Michael Cole, and Michael Cole letting you know he is going to be very biased in this matchup, you're like, okay, so he most likely is going to be at ringside. He's probably going to do some stuff there to help out his boy Pat. And sure enough, that's exactly how it was laid out. So I liked how all of that had played itself out. Um, the punts that McAfee was able to get in there on on Gunther, I love those. The super kick from McAfee. I mean, there was some interesting bags of tricks that McAfee had in there and all that. I thoroughly had enjoy it. I gotta say to you guys. Um, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, main event match. It's for the WWE Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. John Cena taking on Randy Orton. John Cena defeating Randy Orton 27 minutes, 50 seconds. I know some of you guys, wait a minute. They really did go way back, that John Cena and Randy Orton. Man, 27. Yes, almost a half hour. These two guys went. And like I said, both of them respectfully, they have slowed down a little bit, but it's not embarrassing. That's the main thing I want to stress. They may have slowed down a little bit, but it's not in a embarrassing way. It is pretty much, okay, look, we can't quite go at the speed. First of all, it's not like these two guys, luchadors or anything, they're not doing no crazy ass, but at the same time, you know, when it's pretty obvious that the speed that you once had isn't quite there and you got to make up for it in other ways, you got to be more methodical and all that, right? It was more so a case of, if you've watched the career of Randy Orton for years, you're going, okay, this Randy Orton, especially when you see how big of a boy he is now, you're like, okay, yeah, you guys look good, but okay, father time. Cena, not so much, because Cena, you could just say, Cena's always, Cena's never been known as a speedster guy, right? That's never been his type of thing. He's pretty much been a brawler kind of guy when it's all said and done. So, it made a lot of sense and everything. Great ovation for Randy Orton, by the way. Great ovation. John Cena, exactly what you would expect. By the way, I love how they did the Wheatley vodka spot where they showed that I don't know if he was a fireman or an EMS guy, but they showed this one lone guy. He looked lit like a mofo. He looked like he has had his fair share of drinks all throughout the night. This is white guy with a beard, or, after shadow or whatever, black shirt, backwards hat. He's like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this dude looked lit, like I don't know what. And I just got a big old hearty laugh out of that. And I felt kind of bad for the guy at the same time, because I'm going, man, he didn't have a wife, significant other. There was nobody he could have tag along with him for this event where he's on camera. And it's like, now maybe, to be devil's advocate, maybe they didn't want to be on the camera. Maybe they didn't want to be on the camera. I'm having a hard time believing that, because usually, oh wait, we're gonna be on TV. The camera's gonna get put, yeah, right. But yeah, it was funny. It was funny because they did this, I think, right before the main event match. So some funny stuff with that one. The way they had this match laid out, as far as the interferences that came about, well, not necessarily interferences, but shenanigans. That's the better phrase that I can use. Having one referee get bumped into on the outside after Randy Orton manages to do a AA on Cena through the announcers table. It was a botch AA. That table did not sell it for that table. Oh, I'm just picturing Matthew and Botchamania. He's gonna have a field day when he sees that particular spot because that table did not sell. And I love seeing a little upset Randy Orton kind of kick the table after the fact, but he kicked the table once the table decided after about 20 seconds to finally give out. Hilarious stuff. But yeah, the referee had took a bump that got him laid out. Randy hitting the RKO, going in for the cover, felt like an eternity, but you got no referee. Another referee comes running out. Somehow Cena kicks out. Match continues. Randy Orton, he cannot believe it. He is in disbelief as Randy Orton is arguing with the referee. Cena, in the process, manages to recover, grabs his championship, tries to clock Orton over the head with it. Instead, hits that second referee. That second referee is knocked out cold. Randy Orton goes for another RKO. Wham! Like, that should be it. Goes in for the cover. Eternity counting. Randy should be the champion by now. Then we see Nick Aldis and the rest of WWE officials come out. No referees, mind you. No Jessica Carr, and then just, management officials, basically. They're all coming out, checking on the referees. Nick Aldis is yelling at Randy Orton. Randy looks like he's going into a very dark, dark place. And then finally, he just unleashes RKOs on all of those WWE officials. When it's all said and done, John Cena comes up from behind. Wait, before we get to that part, after Randy Orton hits everybody with the RKOs, Randy Orton decides, well, you know what? The only way I'm going to be able to really be done and get rid of John Cena once and for all, I got to punt this guy like there's no tomorrow. And he tried looking for that trademark punt one other time in the match and was unsuccessful. Seemed like this go round, that punt to the head was definitely going to connect. All of a sudden, R-Truth sliding in there, interfering, yelling at John Cena, saying, dog, what are you doing? What are you doing? Randy Orton, not a fan of that. RKO the hell out of Truth, yelling at Truth, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I mean, that's very understandable, right? Now, John Cena coming in from behind with the low blow. Wasn't quite the Paul Heyman kind of low blow, because, that Paul Heyman low blow, you all know that low blow I'm talking about. That was almost kind of like, hey, it's time for that colon checkup, right? The way Paul Heyman did it. This one was a little bit nicer than what Paul Heyman did, but still it's kind of one of those. It's got some serious hang time in there. What the hell, man? Set up the belt shot to the dome of Randy Orton, and then going in for the cover. Referee seemed like it took him forever to get in there. You almost thought that the match was definitely going to continue, but no. 1, 2, 3. John Cena retains. Post-match, John Cena gets on the microphone, talks about how he wants competition. He's not finding it. He's not finding it there so far. And that's it. That is it. Very interesting words there from John Cena. Kind of makes you wonder, so what's going to happen with John Cena here? Is he going to maybe head over to NXT to look for competition? Is he maybe going to pull a Undertaker? What Undertaker did to him so many, Kurt Angle, but Undertaker too in his own respective right. But really, where it truly began for John Cena, where he got the opportunity, was against a in-ring veteran such as Kurt Angle. So are we eventually going to see a case where out of the 30-something dates that remain for John Cena, John Cena's going to maybe make an appearance at NXT And it could it be maybe a Javon Evans that challenges Cena for the WWE Championship? Could it maybe be a Trick Williams? Could it maybe be like insert? Is it possible that we may see now that TNA Impact is live on Thursdays, at least for the foreseeable future? Is it possible that we may see John Cena head on over to TNA and try to see about that competition, see what he can get, and essentially that sets up a I don't know if it would be a case where I don't think it would be a case where John Cena would defend the WWE Championship on a TNA pay-per-view. So for those of you that's kind of fantasy bookend, like you can forget about that right now. I see it more so being a case where if TNA is somehow going to be involved in Cena's run, although I gotta admit, that is one hell of a loophole. Like if I'm booking this, John Cena might have said he has 30 something more dates left with WWE, but you do have a loophole if you can get him to do some stuff with TNA. Because if he's going to be appearing in TNA, and I don't think he's going to appear on a TNA pay-per-view. Like you could forget that. But if you could somehow get him on TNA and maybe do something where he defends the championship over, man, talk about putting a lot of eyeballs on the content. And for anybody that's like, John Cena is not going to be like, don't underestimate. Do not underestimate. It's kind of funny because I'm almost reminded. I've been watching Prime Video, and I usually watch like random networks. So, like for the past couple of weeks, I've been laughing my behind off watching episodes of Chris Hansen's Takedown. After a while, though, the episodes it starts to repeat. So it's like, okay, let me go find something else. I've been watching episodes of one of my favorite hit TV series shows from back in the day. They filmed it out here in the nation's capital, mainly in Baltimore. Homicide: Life on the Street. I bring that show up because I remember, I think it was during the second season. You guys can look this episode up. Robin Williams made an appearance. He was a tourist, and long story short, something happens to, I think it was his significant other or whatever. And it was like one of the highest rated episodes, well beloved episodes. So many people came flocking in to see that episode because they heard Robin Williams was going to be on that episode, and it did not disappoint. Matter of fact, I think Robin Williams was nominated for an Emmy for that episode, or Golden Globe, whatever is daytime. You know the stuff. Y'all know the stuff. So you'd be surprised if WWE can, of course, they got to sit down with John Cena. If they can work out something and John Cena does do some stuff with TNA, I would look at that as a loophole. That's got to be a loophole, right? Because if he's saying he's got 30 something days left as far as appearances in WWE, then what's happening in TNA wouldn't count, right? It kind of makes you wonder. But some interesting developments from that main event match, because now you're gonna have R-Truth officially in the crosshairs of Randy Orton. That's probably not gonna go very well. That just may end up being a match, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. I still feel, just like I said several weeks ago, though, Randy Orton getting another championship, it's going to happen. I see him becoming a world heavyweight champion at least 2 more times when it's all said and done. Um, I wasn't a fan of the spamming of the finishers. That's the only thing from what I said at the top. Wasn't a fan of that whatsoever. I thought we could have dialed that down a little bit. Too many ref bumps for my personal taste as well. It started to feel comedic after a while, and I just was not a fan of that. But if this was their last dance, Randy Orton, John Cena, I tell you what, it ended on a really, really good note. I wouldn't be surprised though if it was a case where I wouldn't be surprised if it was a case where, besides this being the final one-on-one match between Orton and Cena, I would not be surprised if there was maybe a tag match in the future for these two. I just kind of feel like it's not going to be done just yet. But mm, this is a weird pay-per-view to rate. I gotta tell you, this Backlash, very weird to rate because uh this is a tricky one. Because I'm really stopping and I'm thinking about it as far as like the match of the night. I was just looking at this whole card. Hmm. This may sound really unpopular, but you know what? I think for me personally, I think the match of the night, the Fatal Four Way for the United States Championship. I feel that was the match of the night. Definitely my favorite moment of the night too. You would think the Jeff Cobb, but no, 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 just favorite match of the night, favorite moment of the night. I gotta go with the United States Championship. Love the showing out that Jacob Fatu had in there. That was good. Uh Low point of the night, least favorite moment of the night. I've got to go with I gotta go with Dominik and Penta. I love the hell out of those guys. And I really feel that they truly weren't able to really switch gears when it counted the most. And it was one of those type of matches where just when it seemed like, okay, you're curious, you're sitting down, you're checking it out, just when you thought it was about to switch up a gear or two, it's over. So that was kind of disappointing there. It's like, well, if you're only gonna have those guys go like 9 minutes, what's the whole point in the match anyway? Right? It's kind of one of those type of deals. Um, I gotta give an honorable mention to Gunther and Pat McAfee because the way that played out, much more than I expected. So I know for that United States Championship match, I gave that a B plus. I gave Lyra versus Becky Lynch a the hell. For some reason, my phone is talking back to me. I don't know if I said, hey, I don't know. I know I didn't say Google. Anyway, Jacob Fatu and them, yeah, that's a B plus. Lyra, Becky Lynch, that is a C plus. Dominik, Penta, that's a C. Gunther, Pat McAfee, I would give that one I'd give that one a B minus. Can't go higher, can't go lower. John Cena, Randy Orton. I'm factoring in all of the things that I kind of didn't like as far as the spamming out finishers and all that stuff, bumps, referee bumps, and all that. Way, lot of crap. Uh, B minus, C plus. I'm really leaning more towards a C plus. Uh B minus. B minus. That's final. That's final. It's not going any higher than that. I could be tempted to go lower, but I'm gonna stay firm. You want me guys just stay in the lane. I'm gonna go with a B minus on that one. So when I look at this card overall, I would probably scale of 1 to 10, 1 being crap, 10 being awesome sauce. I'd probably give this a 7.25. So I'm probably this pay-per-view. Mm, well, it's got a B plus and it's got a B minus in there, right? And then you got a bunch of C's. So B minus for the show overall. A B minus. I wouldn't be surprised if some people had looked at this and gave it a C plus when it's all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see what some of you guys had to say about this event. I want to see how you guys have voted. And if you have not voted yet, make sure you guys do so. Twitter at the RCWR show. You guys can also vote on youtube.com/the RCWR show. Click on the post section and go vote that way. I kind of feel like my grade is it's kind of high here. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm gonna change my grade. C plus. 7.25. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with a C plus for the pay-per-view overall. That's final. I'm not gonna change my mind again. That's final. A little conflicted on that. Yeah, I think a B is a little too high. I even think a B minus is a little bit too hard for this one here. So all right, let's see what we got going on here. Appreciate the 155 plus of you that's tuning in right now. Whether you're doing it via Twitter or you're doing it via what's that, YouTube or Facebook. Appreciate you guys that's tuning in. Let's see what you guys had to say via Twitter at the RCWR show. 13% of you said you did not enjoy WWE Backlash at all. Meanwhile, 31% of you said it was an average show. 36% of you said it was a below average show, and 18% of you said it was an awesome show. That 36% of you that's saying it was a below average show. Oof. I'm like in agreement with you. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's go to YouTube here. Let's see how you guys have voted that way. Let's see here. Look at the poll. Actually, let me pull up the poll on the other channel here. Let's see here. Actually, give me a second here, guys. I want to mute this so I don't get any reverb. All right. And let's see how you guys voted. Okay, I see some votes, but I want to refresh, make sure I got the most real time. Yeah, there we go. Interesting. YouTube, meanwhile, 25% of you said it was an average show, and 75% of you said it was an awesome show. Now, I do need to note that the voting on YouTube, that's still pretty early. I generally have a better idea how the YouTube community is voting, usually when it's next day, like late morning, late afternoon. So I'm very curious to see if that 75% holds up for awesome show, or will that change? I honestly, you want my honest take? I think the way you guys had voted via Twitter is much more accurate for a lot of what was played out tonight on the show. Let's go through some more comments and see what you guys have to say here. JL Harmon, he's giving the show a 4 out of 10, saying the show started out well with 3 good matches, but after that, it was absolute decadence. The match between Pat and Gunther was just boring and pointless, but the icing on the cake was the horrible main event. WWE decided to offer us almost 30 minutes of a match where they parodied the discipline. The last 2 matches of this show proved to me that WWE is not a company that offers wrestling, but a company that offers a parody of wrestling. They can't stop spitting on the discipline. I'm reading it as it is, folks. The main event was horrible. I've seen about 400 matches in my life, and this was one of the worst I've seen. Well, I don't know about all that, but I do agree with some of the points. Z Spilg says decent enough show. Started off pretty good, a little rough at the middle, but picked back up at the end. Cena versus Orton had too many finishers just for the flair of them. And the hurt referee trope was overused a bit, but overall entertaining. Jenny says that she missed the Fatu match, and she only managed to watch the second half of Lyra, but it was really good. Dominik and Penta, she thought was about 3.5 stars out of 5. Gunther versus McAfee was a 3.75, and Cena versus Orton was 3.75. She enjoyed the show, and it was sports entertaining. She felt like Lyra versus Lynch was probably the best based off what she saw. Overall, even though she only saw half of Lyra versus Becky Lynch there. All right, let's go through a couple of more comments here. OTV says Backlash ends up being okay for the most part, but the ending really soured things for him. They opened the match with Fatu in the Fatal 4-Way, thrilling matchup, fun, chaotic moments. Debut of Jeff Cobb being part of this new bloodline, good stuff. See where that goes. Lyra versus Becky was decent, but the story itself was forgettable. I would agree with that too, for the most part. Dom versus Penta was decent, but the ending was very weak. Pat versus Gunther was good overall and had him hyped. Main event was garbage, absolute overbooked 90s garbage, just a crap way to end the show. Overall, fine pay-per-view that was expected to be weak. Yeah, he thought it was 6 out of 10 overall. Jack says 5 out of 10 for him. Show itself started off with a bang and ended in the worst possible way. Entertaining Fatal 4-Way match with great moments. I like how everybody is showing the Fatal 4-Way. We're all in sync here, especially when it comes to Fatu and the Fatal 4-Way there. Great moments between everyone involved, and Jeff Cobb's debut seemed fine with the match's build-up, was very good, but associating with the Samoan stable is quite bizarre, in his opinion. The women's match between Becky and Lyra was by far the best of the night with great chemistry, but the ending was too anticlimactic. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Third match between Dominik and Penta was the most disappointing of the night, mainly due to the short match and the repetitive way Dominik won. Personally expected much more and was very disappointed. Another match that from the preview didn't expect much, and that's what happened for him, was Gunther versus Pat. It's a very out of sync battle, no chemistry, and the only thing that he could take away from it was the excitement of the crowd during the contest. Finally, the main event he felt was overbooked with many unnecessary interventions and a rather slow match. Once again, the highlight of the match was the crowd. But overall, a disappointing 5 out of 10 when it's all said and done. You guys should see me in the background as I'm trying to navigate Windows. My mouse is dead. And first time this has ever happened. Like normally I can charge this and I'm good for like about 3 months. And for whatever respected reason, and this isn't an off brand, this is an actual legit official Apple mouse. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was a case where when I put it in my I put it in this little hard case. I don't know, maybe it's possible that it might have somehow been pressed, and because I didn't turn it off, eventually the battery ran out that way. Your guess is as good as mine, but I just charged it not even a month ago. And like I said, it usually lasts me about 3 months before I have to charge again. But you guys should be seeing me because every few seconds I'm grabbing the mouse, trying to click, and it's like, dude, it's dead. What are you doing? So pretty funny stuff right here. One more time. Let's see how you guys have voted. I want to go back on Twitter, see if anything has changed. Yeah, we're still the same when it comes to the Twitter poll, where the majority of you are saying below average show overall. Checking out YouTube one more time in the post section, still the same. The night and day, like I said, that YouTube one, we need to see where that is in about 24 hours, give or take. Let's see if we can find some comments on more comments on social media here. Shout out to CJ. CJ via Twitter says complete waste of time. The entire John Cena heel run is a joke, and the matches after the opening fatal four-way were stale and flat. The knocked out ref shtick is old WWE. He actually blasted WWE. Isabel wonders, did Vince McMahon come back and book? BBQ Boss, three RKOs, two AAs through the table, and Cena still kicks out. Fam, he's 48. In what world does that make any sense? Uh, oh God, I love this. I love this. I'm just going through some more comments here. R-Truth versus John Cena for Saturday night's main event. Sean has a problem with Jeff Cobb, as he says Jeff Cobb is Filipino. He's not Samoan or Tongan. And apparently, John Cena put R-Truth through a table. I don't know if this was just now or if it was within the past couple of minutes, but I'm seeing what's been shared on social media here. I'm looking at a video right now, and I'd share it, but WWE is going to hit us with a copyright, so I'm not even trying to go through it. I don't even think we can play their audio. Yeah, we can't even play their audio because they're gonna. But I'm watching it, and yeah, at the press conference, John Cena put R-Truth through the damn press table. So that's pretty hilarious. Let's see here. Let's see some more. Let's see some more comments here. I can't wait to watch the press conference. Usually the press conferences are pretty good, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm trying to find some more comments here. If you guys want to say a little something, go ahead and jump in because we're going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes here. Shout out to Pokemon Trainer. His final thoughts: the United States Championship Fatal 4-Way. Wait a minute here. God, so they could do you no wrong. Well, look, we did read some pretty, we'll give it to him, but you guys might want to be like, wait a minute, dude, what are you smoking? But Pokemon Trainer, United States Championship Fatal 4-Way, 8.9 out of 10. Women's Intercontinental Championship, 9.7 out of 10. Men's Intercontinental Championship, 7.8 out of 10. Pat McAfee versus Gunther, 10 out of 10. John Cena versus Randy Orton, 11 out of 10. So, yeah. Bradley says Backlash event was a pretty damn awesome event. In their opinion, they didn't think it was better than how WrestleMania was, but it was still an awesome event. They're giving it a 10 out of 10. Go through a couple more comments here. Let's see what we got here. Caitlin, shout out to Caitlin. What a show. Fatal 4-Way. Holy crap, what an opener. Becky versus Lyra. Cooked. Amazing outcome. Penta versus Dom. showed out great. Gunther versus Pat, too good, funny, mad entertaining. Randy versus Cena, match of the year, 10 out of 10. Let's see, trying to find a couple of more comments here. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I remember that one. Shout out to Lola. U.S. Championship Fatal 4-Way was very good. Lyra versus Becky was the match of the night for her. Dom versus Penta was decent. Gunther versus Pat was okay. Cena versus Orton was too predictable. She felt that the first half was better than the second half. I can see that. I could totally see that. How about you guys? I could totally see that. Let's see if I can find one more here. Oh no! Wow. No, that looks like really. That's it. Hang on here. Give me a quick second here. Let me refresh. Oh, let's see here. Well, looks like that's about it. Looks like that's about it. From what I'm able to see right now online, looks like that's about it. So we're caught up as far as comments go and everything that had trickled on in here. We did not too shabby. We're already at the 1 hour and 20-minute mark. So let me give you guys some quick programming notes. We'll be back Monday night after Raw goes off the air on Netflix. So tune in right here for that. Gonna be good. Also, yeah, make sure you check out the Monday show because we're going to be revealing the big sponsor that we're hooking up with, going to be working with for the next little bit. It's a really cool sponsor. Some folks behind an energy drink that you guys are going to dig. No, it is not Prime. Tell you guys that right now. It is not Prime. But you guys will definitely dig it. I promise you. Speaking of sponsors, I definitely want to take this time out and shout out some of our sponsors right now because without their kind contributions and collaborating with us, content like what you're checking out right now would not be made possible. Shout out to the good folks over at aistudios.com. If you're ready to bring your creations, whatever you're envisioning to life, AI Studios can help. No credit cards required. Learn more. Go visit aistudios.com. And we're also brought to you in part by claimmysetcrefund.com. For some people, it is still tax season, especially if you have made arrangements to try and take care of your taxes a little bit later. Usually, you got to pay some type of a penalty fee and all of that. But if you happen to have worked as a independent contractor in 2021, you may be leaving a lot of money on the table, like up to about $30,000 on the table that you're leaving behind. Let the good folks over at claimmysetcrefund.com help you out, find you all the money that you need. Again, this particularly applies to if you worked in several key self-employment positions in 2021. Learn more by visiting their website at claimmysetcrefund.com. And yeah, that is pretty much going to do it, guys. I enjoy doing this. Shout out to the 100. Let me see what the final tally is here at the time that we're live. We have 162 that's live right now. You guys enjoyed this. Make sure you hit the likes and all that jazz. Go hit up the YouTube channel. Show that joint some love. YouTube.com/the RCWR show. We're on the road to 1,500,000 subscribers. So definitely hit that bad boy up, all that good jazz. Yeah. And that is going to do it. For those of you that's going to be trickling on in, checking this out for on demand and on the downloads, definitely sound off. Let me know what you thought about the pay-per-view overall, but you've heard the general consensus. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You're somewhere in the middle there. Like, definitely sound off. Let us know what you thought about it. And that is going to do it, my friends. Until next go round, I'm wishing all of y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you guys Monday night for your Raw post show. Take care, y'all. Peace.